It's time for change to move into the real work of the universe. And it's time to understand that we use the matter state to reach the level of understanding of the soul of the man. Now you understand maybe why the Creator has sent his messengers in the name of whatever you have had. Is that they bring the ears, that it can be used when the time of the Messiah comes. They can teach the soul and the message, not to oppose. But by them understanding through those who have become Messiahs, to give from their souls to these to elevate, the job is made easy. The school is there and the students are devotedly there. Then there won't be any fight between what they call the Muslims and the Christians. The lamb and the lion will eat and sleep in the same nest. The Christians and the Muslims will sleep and pray in the mosque, then in the same church, in the name of their souls, not in the name of religion that is used to create so much conflict for the benefit of those who were the hyperactive children. The time has come, the time of change is here. And as I said, my wish is my command. If it's your wish to see peace, the path of peace is laid very clearly. It's the soul of the collective awareness, by giving, will create that position of change. No other thing. There is no pen in the soul of the man. And I'm sure once you go into the universal community, you will never see anything written but the balance of the fields of the soul of the existence. Try to be humble enough not to become arrogant in the power that you have understood and you possess. Otherwise, you'll fall in the same path of the church and the mosque. This is what we promised, and this is what we have delivered. We have to understand the operation of the soul, and we have to understand the soul of the man is a star in the cosmos of the universe. If we compare the soul of the man and many of us, 7 billion in one collection, Earth is like a galaxy with so many stars. When we look in the depth of the universe, we see galaxies with hundreds of millions of stars in it. So is the planet Earth. Carries 7 billion beautiful stars, which are the soul of the man. Carries with it soul of so many trillions of animals, plants, and everything else. So if you look, when someone who does not see the physicality of the earth and its content, what do they see? They see a galaxy with so many beautiful lights shining, each one according to their strength, each one according to their position. An infant has a beautiful soul, so has the old man. To those who do not see the physical dimension of this planet, but they see the strength of the field, we are clusters of stars. The human race, every single soul, no one from a distance sees that's the soul of a fisherman, that's the soul of the cosmologist, that's the soul of the president. They all shine irrespective of the physicality. This is the magic. This is what the new science has to bring to man. When we look through our soul, we see nothing but we star in the other souls. And this is the break. This is the understanding. This is what all these teachings are about. Coming to mature to the next level, to understand in the deep space, the universe is the oyster for those souls who serve. Then man is ready to go into space. Then man is ready to become part of the universal community which has been promised. I never promised you heaven. I always promised you the elevation of the man to join the family. And now you have the key. It's you who has to open the door to understand, if I can raise the soul of these people or millions of other souls, that the physical life on this planet changes, then I'm worthy to be part of the universal community. To be there to serve, to expand. To be there, to be part, that in the cycle of life of universe, I become, in being part, I become part of the totality. When man reaches that point, a new dimension in the strength of the soul of the man will appear, which is beyond imagination of understanding of the physical life. It's the gate to the opening of the new life, in a new dimension, which is beyond imagination of what you might call a new beginning, a new cycle. Which that cycle carries with itself the origin of the creation of life in the universe and in the universe. It's the elevation of the soul to serve become the key, not a throne of the physical life. The time is right. The time has come for the man to go through this process.
Welcome everyone to the 265th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, February 28th, 2019. My name's Rick Raymond. I'll be your host today. And this is a presentation of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, Public Teaching in English. And as usual, our special guest today, as usual, is Mr. Keshe of the Keshe Foundation. And I believe he's ready to go with today's presentation. Mr. Keshe, are you there? I'm hearing a little bit of echo in the background. It might be that there's some speakers in the background that could be turned down a little bit, perhaps. But it might only be my system, so I'm not sure about that. But let's do a bit of a test. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, good day to you, as usual. Whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers workshops, 265, we're just reaching end of 5 years and the beginning of the 6th year. And in a way, we've been teaching over 10 years. In evolution of science, man has reached a new point, and how from now on we use this knowledge will count. How we promote this knowledge and how we encourage the others to promote it the same. Uh, Knowledge in exchange for peace has been our work, and in so many ways, a knowledge should give something that creates that peace. If we think we learn something that adds to betterment of our understanding or betterment of our lives, then that brings us peace. But if we use that knowledge just for advancement of ourselves, that is not a knowledge for peace. We got to share. We got to understand the sharing is part of peace process. Detachment from sharing is the um, gain in the whole process of the Keshe Foundation technology. When we started the teaching years ago, a lot of people told me, Mr. Keshe, you don't give the knowledge like this freely. You know what they're going to do with it? I said, yes, they bring peace with it, but because that's my wish. This is what I want from it. And in so many ways, how can this be achieved? Is this by talk, or do I transfer the wish, the essence of my being, to those who come in touch with the knowledge? Do I need the language, or the action, the motion of the soul of the man touches another soul? We try to explain a lot of scientific things that science can be understood. We try to show a lot of cases. We made many things. A lot of you made ganses. But now we got to the point that we would like to know more. We would like to see more. And the question is the mankind ready for more? We've seen many part of the knowledge, the technology has been tested to limit new dimensions, new horizons, new way of thinking is emerging. And the interesting part is, what's the next step for us? I receive a lot of communications in the background, Mr. Keshe, you're going too fast. One says, it's taken us thousands of years to get here, and you want to take us through in hundreds of days. We're not mature yet. We're not ready yet. My answer has been and will be, we are mature. We didn't understand that we are mature enough. We are very much at a point of looking at the others confirm our maturity, but not ourselves to see what we can add and how much we can share. This has brought me to a lot of thinking. People saying I'm going too fast. And my answer is this. Today I'll give you a chance to ask questions to do with our work, to do the way the teaching has been going. What is the gap in your knowledge? Every few months we do these sessions of you asking questions and leads to different directions. It's an open platform, and I think it's time to consolidate for a few who already may know, a few who might not know, and then see a lot of new dimensions. Yesterday I was in private teachings and I brought up a, a video of a hummingbird, pictures that I think will affect a lot of us if we understand it. And if someone in the background has it, from the people who were in a private teaching yesterday, um, from the team who can put it back up. I would like you to see this. And then this will teach us a lot of things. Um, the If you go on the internet and look for a hummingbird, and it's a video, as if we can put it on. This teaches us a lot about all our teachings in past months. This will teach mankind. When I say the computers are not fast enough, is how this bird shows the life of the man, how we will be, how we'll become. And then I'll take questions. Rick, can you find the hummingbirds? It's on the internet. You can just pick it up and put it on the screen.
Yeah, well, I think that was a Facebook share. We'll have to see if we can get a non-copyright version of the video,
If
perhaps.
we can get it, because it's a public, if you don't have any restriction on it. Otherwise, we can put some pictures on. What is interesting with this bird, those of you who know, have seen it, it's very small, a tiny bird, and in a instantaneously he change or she changes the color. Very, very, very fast. And when I looked at it, I looked at this many, many times. It shows how man has to become in the dimension of space through the soul. On this planet, we have 2 hands, 2 arms. The condition, another point of the galaxy, because of the combination of the materials in the essence of creation, does not have the presence of 4 arms or 10 legs, or you might have 2 eyes, no need for eyes. And this teaches us a lot. And the question I asked yesterday in the teaching is the same question I put again today. If you look this bird, if you have a live video of it, because you have to see it, the way it changes its color.
Yeah, it's published in YouTube, I think, and it was under the comedy category because they were trying to trick people that it was a rare bird that changes color, but it was just actually a hummingbird, common hummingbird, but it just happened to catch the light in a particular way that really was quite amazing with the color transformations. And I can see that live with the hummingbird feeder that I have here. It's a similar hummingbird with iridescent colors, you could say, that show up differently at different angles and different light and so on. It's amazing.
Yes.
We'll continue to look for that video. Just
there is number of these videos on the internet. So what happens if you look at these birds? If you look at the man, we go shopping and we buy clothes. There are no shops for the bird to change clothes. They go through the evolution to fit the environment they're in, or what it needs to make them separate. When man goes to space, there are no supermarkets and nowhere that today I want to go with this fashion and that fashion. I presume after a few years we give up on clothing because they'll be in racks. And secondly, do we want to get to that space? Or do we become to train ourselves, to adapt ourselves? As I said many times, it's the man who has to decide his position and what he wants to see and what he wants to close his eyes to, and what he wants to see through the eye of the soul of the man. These will come to play a lot for us in a very near future. We are looking at the next steps of development. We are looking at a progressive development in the way that this technology will affect our daily lives and how we can do it. In part of our work, in the new products which come out of the Keshe Foundation development in conjunction with governments and other organizations and inside of the Keshe Foundation, you will see that we will affect everything every one of us does daily on this planet. We then have to decide how we're going to respond to the new conditions, which the application of technology will bring with it. We see the end of drugs. Drug and drug trafficking will come to a halt, not through Keshe Foundation, through the technology which we have developed. We see the end of addiction. We see the end of abuse of one's body through abuse of anything which you can get hooked on. But on the other hand, we'll see new ways through plasma technology which people will find peace. We see through the development of and test what we're talking about, these are the actual physical things which has been done, that the use of Keshe Foundation agricultural side as part of the medicine, where by consuming certain materials which is pre-designed by the what I call agriculturists, by farmers, will allow you to get rid of your diabetic, will allow you to get rid of your brain hemorrhage. These are in the progressive to come. Then at the same time we can create, we are producing materials which can affect your emotion, that humanity steps down from this aggressive behavior. At the same time, we see the development, the new phase of the space technology, which is in left-hand motion. The delivery of technologies which affects every man. Can you play this video? Or is it free?
Yes, we'll play it without the music, and that'll help. And it's a Creative Commons video that we're able to share. So yes, it's about a little over a minute long, and I'll probably replay it a couple of times.
Have a look at this bird, and then see, you decide, is it the soul of the bird, or how fast is it changing? Is it the light? Even, let's say, even if it's not real, is man going to be like this? Now that we understand the operation of the soul.
It is real, Mr. Keshe. There's a number of videos that are similar to this of the hummingbirds, and they're able to do it somehow.
Yes, this is what I brought up in the teaching yesterday, and this comes as part of our teaching. Do we see the physical change of color, or does this bird has managed to touch us through our soul? And if this bird can do such a thing, what about us? Now that we're understanding the operation of the soul of the man and the need, look at the color, black. I go to Africa, I want to be black, nobody knows I'm whiter than one of them, and I can live in the environment. I go to China, I want to look Chinese. I go to the beautiful land of Iran. I want to be suntanned and be able to enjoy the language. Can I, by changing my color, learn a new language automatically? Or I attach my soul to someone who speaks the language and I can speak. These are not fairy tales anymore. In the coming time, I start teaching how to progress, how to develop these things. I have started teaching the medical teams in new ways, effective ways for diseases. But at this moment of time, we are developing our people to understand. If this bird can switch colors so fast, does it do it through his soul or does it do it through his emotion? Does it need, there is something wrong here? Can you stop this, Rick? What is important is, if you freeze this picture, please. If you look, it's not just one part changes. Many parts instantaneously change. The body color changes, the head color changes. If you look in some detail, the feature of the bird changes too. Is it camera? Is not. But now is the soul. This is the feature it needs to be on this planet. The next phase is when it's on Mars or when it's on Saturn. We have a very wrong understanding of the space flight. At this moment of time, no one has taken their clothes off of the spacesuit and traveled in space. Nobody has taken that plunge yet. But if we understand the process, can man do this? We are not a solid matter. We are dynamic. We are made of dynamic plasma that, how long would it take us to change physically? We say we need oxygen to breathe, we need water to survive. But in plasma technology, we have shown we don't need oxygen. We need the energy to be transferred into our lungs, that it can keep the blood activated, that it can circulate. How fast would we mutate? Or are we always locked into this planet and to a spacesuit or a spaceship? Would the development of new space technology which is coming up on the back of the Iranian scientists, on the back of the Chinese scientists, on the back of the other scientists around the world. As we had the first time we tried, we were too naive and too scared. We sent the dog up first, and then we sent monkeys next. And I remember sitting in the back of the car in Tehran with the Tehran head of Space University. Says, we tried the monkeys and the rats, and they work. And I said to myself, and this is the question goes to all of us. Now that we have opened the dimension of understanding of the work of the space through plasma technology, would we let a dog or a rat outside the spaceship and see how they survive? Would they survive? We haven't lost anything in the depth of space. Or does our soul take a new dimension and evolve immediately to respond to the space like this bird. The more we are moving in the dimensions of the space travel without the fuel, with space travel with position of the gravity and magnetic field, and we understand our own body is the galaxy itself. Have we had the fear of testing the space? Or do we need another Yuri Gagarin? Or do we need the first thing to test? We are afraid that we might freeze. We are afraid because we put something out, it might die. Sooner or later, space agencies will open its door. This will open our eyes to the capabilities of human body, to the capabilities of the conversion and evolution instantaneously to a different level of the strength of the soul of the man or the animal. This will show us if, like this bird, we can instantaneously change that we don't need to breathe. We are afraid if that string which is in that clothes we are attached to a space slab goes, what's going to happen to us? We haven't tried to see we can survive in the depths of the space. It will come. Somebody by accident or something by accident, or space travelers will indicate that, will bring it out to us. And would we evolve so fast? Not changing the color, but the way we were born out of the beautiful womb of the mother, and we changed from a life of a fish inside the water of the womb to become a air breathing instantaneously. Would we evolve into the new dimension? Is our fear is holding us back? Or we need time to evolve gradually into the new space? The answer is yes. We will evolve instantaneously. Because the body of the man is dynamic in plasma condition. When we lose our fear, then our soul of physicality, our physical dimension of the plasma will take over. We can create as much vacuum space as we like and put somebody inside, they explode, they expand. That would not happen in the depth of space. Would we come to the point that we work through our soul, than the soul of physicality? Would our soul create a protection for the physical body to stay protected, that it doesn't need a suit? As we enter in a coming time, building the first international space group, we will have to handle this. In the next few months, in the first meetings of these space organizations, there is a need for the change. But how much of this life we have created is a physical fear and not the truth about the real life of the body of the man or the animal? We got to understand, at the moment, there is a number of problems with our flight system in the space. Because we can't create gravitational magnetic field to be stationary, We're traveling at huge speeds, and if we throw something out, you have other dimensions which comes into it. With the new space technology, where you can create gravitational magnetic field and be stationary in space, you don't need to chase or to run in the fear of you're not coming back. It gives the world of science a new dimension that we can go for a walk. We can stand still and put outside things. Things will not fly the way we see suddenly flying away from a space lab, because it's a space lab which moves them behind. It's not them running away. The whole new space technology will create new conditions for us. And when we can stay stationary somewhere, let's say between the moon and the earth, and we can open the door and walk out, there is no rapid flow, rapid throw. Would the space of time allow us to go to evolution of the soul of the man, that we can accept the new condition? Man has shown many times going to rapid evolution when there's a need for it, and this time will not be any different. The new spaceship organization which is getting set up, and the first meeting is in the coming months, the Iranian space scientists and Americans sit next to each other, the same as the Chinese and the Russians. And they developed a new technology. And they developed a new structure for space. And in this space, there is no room for conflict. There'll be a very big conflict. Who's going to do it first? Who's going to be the first one walking out to sea? Or shall I? Would I? Do I come back alive? Because, excuse me, can you stop this video, please? The problem is how we come to change in a rapid way. Can you stop the video, please, Rick? And what is important, just put it on the freeze. Then it comes to the point of, do we have the right to test our own evolution in the depth of space? We send the dog, we send the monkey. Chinese rather send the rat, the Iranians send something else. We have always been scared to be in front. And we are very brave. I remember I was in Tehran years ago, and I watched a very beautiful picture. There was a man and a woman in their mid-age, and the man stood the woman on the front where the cars were coming. When it came to the center line, he moved to the other side that she's again in the front. I thought, what a clever man. He thinks he's clever, but he doesn't count. That's the mother of the children. If she gets hurt, who's going to look after the children? He thinks about his own life first. And this image stays with me when I look at these things and where the technology is going. Are we, which one of us, going to take that step to walk in the open space and, like this bird, await the instantaneous conversion of the soul of the man to protect the man? Because if we see the dog can convert, how did it do it? It can't teach us. Ask this bird, how do you do it? It can't teach you. But it's in essence of its soul. How does it change chemicals in the feather? Or It's the essence of the soul which creates the condition to the eye of the beholder. As I said like last week, when you want to see a shooting star, I can create you a shooting star, but only the people who are with me see the shooting star. You ask anybody else, they never seen one. Or the people who are with me and the soul is not ready, no, I didn't see any. I've tested this. Those who I want them to see the shooting star, they see, and the one standing, no, I didn't see, I missed it. You didn't miss it because the soul wasn't there to see. So, going back to the teaching of the past, and knowing where the work of the Keshe Foundation is coming to in the coming time, which one of us is prepared to go through the evolution of the soul of the man? This is real, this is not. You cannot build a machine for it. You cannot condition it that it'll be there. You cannot make it on earth. It's a jump in a pool of universe. You sink or you swim. But even if you die physically, your soul is free. Will it take a new dimension? And you freeze you from the cage of the physicality of the man. Because you don't die. Now the body, this shape has frozen, but the soul cannot freeze. It has no dimension to freeze. Would you end up to be a plasma? Or would you end up to take a new shape in front of everybody else? Or you change to something and they pull you back in and you become a human again. These are the realities which the man of space will face very rapidly. Do we need millions of years to go through evolution? Or we leave the physical evolution away, done with, and we go through the transformation of excess of the environment in respect to the soul of the man at the point of manifestation? The process of the space technology in the next phase will force us to test. Are we going to have discussions on morality? Are we going to have the discussion on what is right or wrong? Or are we going to have a condition? Let's test it and see. I heard something very funny, which is always has been one of my biggest problems. And I laugh with it because sometimes it's good to have a bit of sense of humor. You know, the Americans, they say they've been to the moon. We say in Farsi, astaghfirullah. And a lot of Iranians never believed at my age, when a man went first to the moon, they said, man, never been there, they're lying, because they're there to insult Islam. That's there, whatever is there. Now the Chinese are there with the machine. The Indians been there, so they all are the club of the liars, or they've been there. But there is one point. If you ever listened to the Apollo trips to the moon, there is something very funny. This is what I put to the guys in NASA. I said, you know, you have all these, I've told you before, you have these telescopes, you can see the depth of the space. Show us a man's footprint on the moon. We're not on the dark side where the Chinese are now, we're on the light side. So if we can see the depth of the universe, we can adopt one of these machines to show the footprint of Armstrong. They said our machine is developed to look in the depth the close cannot focus. We said, okay, no problem. But I don't know, there is another trick in this NASA game, which is a trick, but I call it a trick. Did you know that none of the astronauts who's walked on the moon has come back with their shoes. There's a shoe shop on the moon. And the Americans' reason has been the boots are too heavy and we needed to reduce the payload. We left the shoes behind. I have a big question about that. How come we went and we brought so much soil, we couldn't bring the shoes to see what happened to the shoes? None, as far as we know, unless NASA can tell us different, none of the astronauts who's landed on the moon has ever come back with the boots. Payload effect. So, with this test, with this what's coming up, there is no lies, there is no cheating. I hope when we go back to the moon with the spaceship, we can bring the shoes back for them, that we can give it to them, they don't walk barefoot on the land. But what is interesting for us is, what are the launch pads? Which still there. Why after 60 years we can scan the whole of this planet, this moon, we don't see any sign of man? Americans are very happy to always to show their flags flying, but why don't they give us a close shot of the flags on the moon? We have the most sophisticated cameras in the world, but we cannot take a picture from a flag or the boots and many other things. I hope they're there. Just some Americans were walking barefooted. We've got to give it back to them. But it comes to a point. Can we get away with these lies this time? Because it's our own lives. We have to learn the strength of our soul. We have to have trust in the strength of our soul to be able to take the plunge in the open expanse of the universe. Would the body of the man go through the evolution of operation of the soul without physicality? Or would the soul of the man, through the soul of physicality, enforce a rapid evolution that everything is here, I can take it? It's like you jumping off a plane and free falling. Am I going to open a parachute? Or is the parachute automatically has opened by the soul of the man? In next few months, maybe a handful of years, man will have and has to answer these. Because the space technology, the spaceship program, now that we are turning into unification of the space programs between the majority, what we call the space nations of today, will force us to that position. And then, are we collectively going to lie to each other? Or are we collectively going to watch one of us opening the door and walking outside? I don't know if you know the terminology in English, they call it walking the plank. In olden days, when somebody was sentenced to death, on the high seas, there was a piece of wood ending up in the ocean, and you had to walk it and jump in. If you managed to survive and get to an island, it's yours, but if you couldn't swim, you died. That was execution by sailors. Some people survived, could cross. So, are we making a space plank? Opening the man into the dimensions of the space to see, first of all, can he walk? Secondly, would he go through the transition from the beginning of the plank? Those of you who doesn't know what the plank is a piece of wood. You walk on it. You see builders, they put it on two stools and they walk on it. It's called the plank. So, are we going to go through evolution? Or the fear of going through the evolution will end the physicality of the man? Or do we have a confidence to do so? In the coming years, by the opening of the space program, the spaceship program, through magnetic gravitational field forces, man has to face these. And these teachings gradually prepares you for it. If you look at the teachings in past few months, I have brought you to understand more and more about it. Because, I do apologize, in our world, in the universal travel, we have no space suit for the soul. And then, what happens when the soul of the man has to deal with the existence of a body as you think it might freeze, and where would it go? Would it convert it? Or would it work through it? And as every cell of the man is dynamic, we will go through the emotion of conversion. Let me explain to you something very simple. We all know the emotion of fear and how our heartbeat goes up, our body sweats, we shrivel, we breathe different to adjust into what is built up in the body of the man for that moment. But we've never tested the condition of no air, but the existence of the soul. Would the soul convert automatically the body to take energy from the space without anything else? Or is there enough energy in space in certain points that it suits us? It's like you can swim in some places and you cannot do because it's dangerous, it's too rough. Would you find the spaces in the environments in space that is just suits the energy of our life to feed our soul, and we walk in and it's fantastic, hand in hand. We don't need to, maybe we get the wings, maybe we find gravitational magnetic evolution like the way our soul of physicality lives with the soul of the man, and find a position. Then this bird teaches us a lot. Actually tells us how backward the mankind is compared to such a little thing. If we take this bird with us that is changing so fast the color, would it be the best candidate to take with us? And let's see how it changes. How would it float, or would it suddenly start making new colors and new noise? Or do we need to take the partner with it, with the love of the partner interacting, will both stay alive, that they feed each other to confirm their existence and their love for each other? It's not on an earth that you write to somebody, I love you, and you get no response back. There, the love of the soul, and you know if your partner is in love with you. This is that simple. And the reason I start bringing these things up is because By June of this year, the first world collaboration on space technology will start and will take like fire. Because it's been set to go, it's been set, everything has been organized. And then what do? And this time is not Keshe Foundation. We are the guilty party in instigating and setting up this organization, and the space nations of the world have and will respond to it. The new space development then becomes the flag bearer of all of us. The what we call zero, China, Iran, Brazil, Russia, India, and United States space agencies in plasma will work as the first organization to test these things. The structure for it has been set. And then, would it be an American who take the first step? Or Iranians are more proud to see we are the first one? Or we'll get 6 of the 6 nations walking together as one? And would the love of one hold the others to stay alive in the dimension of the soul? Would we see the change? The way we see a child born from the womb of the mother as a swimmer, as a fish, to a walking man and breathing? Is there a hidden system in the physicality of the man which is there for this position? The way we change with one breath from a fish to air breathing, would we change from air to soul breathing? These things are on our reach. One of us, or some of us, will test it. And if we fail the first time, would we develop technologies that we can create condition of the transformation of the soul of the man and the physicality of the man to the dimension of the space? We cannot live the life the way we do, that we have to take what we call camping, the food, the water, the bed, and everything else in the space. We run out of it very soon. So in the technology, in the Keshe Foundation laboratories, and a lot of you have developed different ways of energy transfer and other things. And we are creating new systems, gradually taking you through it. But at that point, it's the last man standing. It's you who have to make a decision that this is not committing suicide, this is committing to a new life. Detachment from physicality. It's a big difference. When you commit suicide, you end. When you become detached, you start a new life without the fear to end. Would the cycle of the soul of the man will go through that transition? I have a bad news and I have a good news. Many races in space have done and they have succeeded. Many races out of the fear failed till they gain confidence that I can live through my soul. Many races at this moment are going through the transition. For us to go from a beautiful color of a black skin from Africa to become the beautiful yellow skin of Chinese, to the wonderful color of the Iranian, brownish, and then to the white, taking us thousands of years of evolution. Would we learn like this bird that we can change color instantaneously, and with it, it shows our emotion? What does this bird say? I'm in love, I'm looking for a partner. Why do you think he does it? And another partner who has the same soul strength says, I'm here, come and catch me. We do it together. With the color, it signals the soul. Then mankind has to get ready for this transformation. Mankind has no choice. We have put mankind in that direction. Americans are at it. Russians are at it. And every other country who has some confidence in space technology are at it. Now they're testing plasma reactors, core reactors. Why doesn't it fly? Where is it fit? Where doesn't it fit? Where have we missed? And these things has to be and will be sorted through zero. As many of you know, Russian could have achieved a lot more, but they were behind with Americans. And they came up with the excuse that if any American space system crosses over the Russian territory, they'll start a third world war, because they were a few months behind and they were developing their own system. When they got it, they flew it up, they became first. Americans were there long before the Russians were the first Sputnik, as I call it. But would we have that threat on us? Or would the scientists of the space technology will become the flag bearers of the peace, because they can go anywhere, and once one learns, the others learn, like this bird. This is not the only bird. All the hummingbirds from this caliber change their color. How did it come from gene, or have they taught each other? And what made it to change so rapidly? So today's teaching is very simple. We are entering a new phase of a space program. And the beauty of it is, the lamb and the lion will share knowledge. You can call the lamb whichever nation you like, and you can call the other one lamb or a lion, whichever you like. But there's one point. Can we trust with the cups, with the plasma system, with the microwave systems, with every other system that in past 5 years I kept you busy to teach you little by little? You're like children who like to have toys, otherwise you get bored, you want another toy. I've been a father who's been running around shopping to keep all of you busy every day, different toys. Today you want to make answers, this, the other one do this, and in every way I juggled around to keep you interested in working. Now the game is yours. Now the humanity has to decide who's going shopping and who's going to do the walking of the plank in the space of universe. And unfortunately, the gateways which we are building and in progressively getting done will not be a place for man to test. Because it's consciously, at the beginning, not possible. Remember the word I said, consciously. Consciousness is part of the pitfall of the life of the man in a dimension of existence. So we come back to one point, and that is, we put the hand of peace to all the nations who are part of the CBRO to attend the first conference. You'll be informed the place and the position in the coming time. And it will be not public, but it'll be very much public-private. But in that process, would we take the step not only share the knowledge of the space technology the way we have developed it, but be brave enough to take the first steps into space to see if the way we trusted leaving the womb of the mother with our soul, knowing there's going to be a danger with a new condition, would this time we are more mature and take that step to leave the womb of breathing into the dimension of the energy of the universe and leave it for our bodies, physical bodies, or our soul to absorb the energy of the universe without the compression of the magnetosphere of this planet. Then would it be that instantaneously the man learns that why have I killed so much to give this body? Couldn't I do this in the condition of the earth without killing to live to survive? And then the other point for all of us will be when we come back to this planet from the depth of the space or from the first excursion holiday in the plasma and we went for a walk, would we look at the food the same as we done in the space? And then would we remember what we did in the space, that on this planet we will not kill to survive, we will not eat to survive, but we learn to tap in the dimension of universal energy. I think something very, very interesting will be, as I said once to a friend of mine, the biggest punishment for the criminals will be to lock them up on earth and don't let them experience this beauty. We lock our prisoners in buildings, but now we expand the prison to earth, because those who can go, they go and learn and they come back. But those, there is no punishment, but we decide not to go, what's going to happen? There is another position which I explained to the officials, governments recently, is that once we open this door, what would be the rush of people who want to do, to take this plunge, to go through this process? Or are governments ready for such a thing? Or are nations ready for such a change? Because when it comes, it'll be very rapid. At the moment, we have a limitation of, they say you want to go to space, you have to be tested for everything from the size of your eye to the skin and everything else. If you cannot panic, you're psychologically stable. And now that the space opens up, do we get the psychological test and the skin test before we get on the plane? No. So that's what it's going to be. Now, maybe some of you understand the terminology which I've used for such a long time. You're the last man standing between you and your soul, and if you can take the conversion of the living through your soul or living through the physicality of the existence confirmation of the physical body of the man. Or would we see when we come to the point of the birth into the dimension of the universal condition, we leave the physical body aside and we see the light of the soul of the man. When you were born from the womb of the mother, you had a partner. We discarded it, even though it was our half, it was what we lived through. Would be the man who do the same and let this partner, which is brought to the point of maturity, to be detached and be born in the dimension of the universal condition? Do we need the people which we carried, and once we came out of the condition of the womb of the mother, had to be separated from us that we can survive the condition of the earth? in the open atmosphere? Would we go through this next phase and we detach from the body? We'll see it when the soul will take a new dimension. We cannot breathe, but the soul is free. And some of you will go through this position, and some of you will revert back to it. And some people still would like to be in a spaceship. But you've got to understand, there should be no fear, as in the time of dream, you call it, your soul always takes these steps and travels without the dimension of physicality. So, I think you have your answer. I think the Iranian Moslems and the Americans and the Russians and the Indians and the Brazilians and the Chinese will walk out with pride and stay within the dimension whichever decide. Because we do it in the time of dream, which means our soul travels the dimension of this universe without the physicality. We leave the physical body in the bed. So, those of you who had doubts in it, I think you got your answer. These are, as I said and repeat myself many times today, this bird has come home to roost. We are here, and if you listen to all my teachings, especially since last March, May, I prepared you for this day. Many of you ask, where is my soul? How can I find it? What would be the transition? These are not anymore ifs, maybe, when, not my time. With the new dimension of space technology, gravitational magnetic fields, which is coming into operation, with especially what I see is coming from the health units, the plasma field units, the new systems which will replace and literally eliminate drugs, you will see this. It's not might be, it is already here. How are you going to handle the operation of your soul? How you try to find where is my soul? How you come to face the detachment from the physicality of the body of the man in atmospheric condition. If you look at it as I explained before, it's, you know, we have a worm, we have a little seed, it's coming to March, April, and if you lived on the Silk Road and you were a little boy like me, you buy these little black dusts and you leave them on the leaf, and then out of nowhere, this little black dot becomes a worm. And then you watch it. How did that seed come from? That seed was when you were in the womb of the mother. Now you go through the state of being worm, which is the physicality of the man today, and then you go and make a new condition. That's what a cocoon is. You change the atmosphere inside. Now you are inside your own galaxy, which is the physicality of the man, and then you merge as a butterfly. Is that butterfly the freedom of the soul of the man, the third conversion? And the answer is yes. We went through that little spot of dot on the leaf. We call it in Farsi tooth. It's a beautiful white berry, and you put the green leaf. When we were a student, we buy it. You don't know if the guy is selling you, is it a silk or he's just got some dust and sell it to you, but you have a belief that it will. And then you put it there and you watch it every day. And you come home and says, Mom, has it changed? Now we ask our own soul, has it changed? We've seen the evolution in the man's life with other things. Now we see the next evolution. When the soul of the man becomes that beautiful butterfly, which has to leave the soul of the man from his soul of physicality. And then man is matured in a universal community. Then it shows its beauty. It shows how far it can go and how long it'll live. This is a step that all of us has taken. But we have come to the point of death to see the conversion, but we never seen the butterfly. Now, in the depth of the space, on the condition of us accepting the condition of the universal community with freeing the soul of the man from dimension of physicality, that butterfly, that beautiful light will shine. Then, out of all these shining lights, can you tell me which one is your brother, and which one is your mother, and which one is your friend? Or they're all shining. Or from the lights, you realize this is the sun which I come from, that's my mother, and that sun is another one from the next galaxy, is my sister, and the rest. I see in the coming months, we start moving in that position in the coming years, not more than a handful of years. The scientists, space technologists will break through. As I said for many times, I had to bring it to this point. We still will have the factories, we still run the labs, we still die, what happened to this and what happened to that. But would all of us leave this planet to become a free soul from all these attachments and pains of the life? Or we split into different groups, those who decide to go, or those who decide to stay in the village of the earth in physicality. But would we come back home? And would our friends and family recognize us if we appear in the light of the soul of the man? Or would we take the definition of the physicality and live? I see the Iranian space groups very rapidly reaching that. I see the same with the Chinese, and I think the only ones far behind the whole lot would be the Americans. But we have to help each other to get there. And one condition which we have to decide, when we take the plunge, would we come back to live the suffering life of physicality, to kill, to live? Work 8 hours a day for 2 weeks holidays that we can still suffer with it because we count every penny we save to have these 2 weeks. Or you become like English people. English people go for 2 weeks holiday, the week they come back they start saving for the next year. They suffer, they don't buy clothing, they don't buy food, because this money is for 50 weeks from now, I'm going to have 2 weeks to spend it, or it's going to be time for me to enjoy. But again, they're worried when it's finished, it's over, I have to start doing again. And this is the pattern of life for mankind, and how far we're going to come back. I said, a lot of people say, there is too many of us on this planet. I say, We do not have enough because a lot will take the plunge. And this planet will be a ghost town. We don't need rivers to live near. We don't need food to depend on. We have a freedom of detachment and no language and no color counts. Or we go through the evolution of the spaceships and gradually go through the phase of detachment. Where we get security, mental security, that I walk in this space, I don't need to eat anything, I don't feel hungry, I don't feel thirsty. I have to give something not to be bored, or I do something to help the others because not helping just to keep myself out of boredom. And then realizing that my body still exists, and then maybe the transition will be, as I'm not eating, I lose the use of the stomach, the kidneys and the liver and the rest of it, because they store their own anything what I need. There is no storage in it. There is no cleaning up to do. And then when it's needed, will come back. We had a very interesting experience, and is part of the Keshe Foundation journal. When you get time to go and have a look at it, because there'll be extension to it very soon. Look at the pig trial with African swine fever. This has a huge understanding for many of us, those of you who have a fear of reversal. This pig is a female, and we have another pig was a male. The male died. He's been buried 1.5 meters below the ground. The farmer waited till this die. I'm not killing it till it dies. And this soul wanted to stay alive because he guaranteed and assured the Keshe Foundation, I want you to be here to confirm your technology. So we found this pig. And this pig, 3 months before, when he had the African flu, he was eating every day, and excuse my French, making a lot of experiments and water everywhere in his room or in space. From the time when she went through the disease due to the side effect of the virus, she could not eat much, or what she ate very little, not drink much. She lost half of her weight in the 3 months as she was dying. But the strange thing is, in the 3 months, according to the farmer, the pig made no excrement, which means the stomach is totally closed. If you go on the, if you can go, Rick, on the Keshe Foundation Plasma Journal and bring up the, what you call it, the first trial, you will see it. And knowing the knowledge I have, I said to the farmer that we know the reversal of the disease, the virus, is when the pig will start creating excrement. It must have been crazy to the farmer. He's a little farmer in a village in China. He's got to trust a man who he doesn't know, but is sending some water specifically made for this pig, and this pig eats it, and he expects to, excuse my French, drink and create excrement. They haven't done for 3 months. This is what's going to happen to your body. In space there is no food, you're taking all by energy. And for me it was important to confirm that the body of the man can go back to operation when I bring it back to Earth. So the first day, before we start, Rick, can you go to the journal and bring the picture of the pig up?
Yeah, I just don't know which of the plasma times that particular journal is in. I don't know how.
January. It's in January, or it must be in January or December.
You can go
Should
to
be
scientific
December.
journal.
Yes, we published it. So what it was important when we said to the farmer that the first sign that we know the animal has recovered is creating of excrement. He must have said crazy lots. These people are crazy for bringing this to me. But he trusted because he loved the pig. He wanted his pig back. After 3 days, on the 4th day, if I'm right, the pig produced the first excrement after 3 months. To me, analyzing this process was a great breakthrough. We could reverse for the animal to create excrement after 3 months, but it showed that the lining of the stomach has not destroyed itself. It's there. Somehow, the survival mode has kept together. So what I looked at it is, when we bring man from deeper space, hasn't eaten for years, and then he decides to eat, just go to some of the pictures you will see. Just go, there we are. This is the pig. Can you open the pictures, please? Let's have a look at the pictures of it. This is the pig, Madame Pig. And we've seen her new pictures, it's beautiful. This pig hasn't eaten for 3 months. So you can see it, the fever is skin red. And go to the next picture, please, if you have. And when the farmer saw the first excrement, he understood there is something different. Then, this is all the pictures taken the day before we start the trial. It's a very skinny pig. Now we have a beautiful picture. It's grown. She's absolutely great at the moment. So go to the next picture, please. And when you look, this is again when he started. The next picture on this series shows you a pig and excrement. Some people must have, what's crazy people, why do they show this? Can you go, there's a videos attached to this, these are off the video. See the excrement there, that's the first one. After 3 months, we could see it. This to a farmer was okay, but to the scientific world, this has never happened before. Without anything, within 3 days, from just drinking water, creating condition of life, the body responds. There is another one, can we show it? This is day 5. There's 2 of these. There's another one, experiment. And this process, this is the second one, if I'm correct, or this is the first one. So now we saw the body started, and can you go back to the last one? There is a last picture. This is 7 days later. The one on the right, the bottom right, the last one bottom right is the picture. Yeah, there, no, bottom right. You were there before. Yep. And now you see after 7 days, the pig produces perfect excrement, as a pig does. And this showed life can convert back to its normality. But would the man do when it comes out of space? If we lost our mouth, would we see the opening of the mouth? If we lost our usage of our stomach, would we see it start refunctioning? This is a real case. It's there, it's documented by the farmer. And it shows the evolution within 3 days. Would man behave like this in space when he comes back to Earth? Or when you go to another planet and maybe you experiment from your top of your head and or maybe from your fingers or whatever, because that condition dictates that. These papers which we release has huge fundamental application in space. It's not just that we've done a pig flu. I'm not really concerned in so many ways how the pig has got back, and we got a thank letter from the farmer that I got my back, and every few weeks now we can see a beautiful picture of the pig, and I'm sure very soon, in a matter of time, she will end up in a pot. That's why we keep animals. But what this picture gives us is when man goes through the space that has no need for food, he can tap into universal energy. And then when he arrives at the point of destination, that there could be a physicality of the use of the food, would our system start activated? You thought this was a African pig flow. For me as man of space, this is a perfect test ground. This shows a lot of things to me, how the psychology of the animal has changed. After 7 days, the pig did not need anything. It's back to normality. So we can evolve in a dimension of physicality and in a dimension of the soul of the man. And when we see these kind of tests, you look at the swan fever, or you look at if you can reverse this fever, which nobody else can. Yes, in a way we want it. But as a space scientist, I look at if I can change the physicality, the work of the body of the man to perfection, and you see it there. I'm a master of my work. To you is a pig. To this, it tells me amino acid can be converted to behave back to normality. All it's going to be is like to the moment you get on a plane from London, you go to Hawaii, enjoy the sun and everything else, have the fruit of the land, and you come back and you tell people what you saw. But they don't ask you, did you eat? Did you stop eating or whatever? Now, you have a surety when you come back to London, you can eat your bacon and beans and become an Englishman. But in Hawaii, you wanted to see how they eat and how they fish and live their life. But this is on the atmospheric condition of this planet. We have given you birth into the universal community. And as I said, I put a lot of things on slowly, slowly, and then I come to it like this after 2 months, and I explain to you what you're looking at. We have entered a phase of transition to become man of space. Through our own physicality, through our own decision, through our own space and time. And the reason I show this picture is that one of the biggest problem with a man is the fear, can I? The pig can, so can the man. It's the will to stay alive through the strength of the soul with a pig that If I can fight these 3 months, somebody lunatic will turn up called Mr. Keshe who will give me my life back and I can experiment normal. And I'm there, I give it back. But now I have 7 billion human beings that have to gain that confidence through their own operation. And the other question comes up is that, do you need for me to put you on a ship, to take you into space, to get off and see how your soul is? Or can you make, with understanding of the presence of what a spaceship is, to go through that transition on this earth? Some might do. There is a way to do it, and some might not. And they say the guy's crazy, does not talk about like the Maghreb system. In the coming months, in a series of international conferences, Keshe Foundation will release huge amount of knowledge and physical systems around the world. We do not announce, we do not release the position and time and what is going to be shown and what it is, that we don't create expectation. But gradually, next times to come, you will start seeing systems which gradually will take man through this program. And the beauty of it is, we've been invited by the governments to do it, not the Keshe Foundation. Which means the technology has proven to be correct to the heads of states around the world. But the time and the position, we might not even report because we don't see any need for it. And gradually we'll see the establishment and the structure. So the teaching of today is in many ways, in English language, is soul searching for the man to find his soul, and now come to trust. Can I leave this soul in the hand of my own trust and nobody else? If you go, and you have seen most probably how some mothers give birth to the children in a pool or in a bath, and you see when a child is born, immediately takes up to the new life in the water, or some they do at home, or some we do in the hospital. Then we'll see we go through the same process. As you see on the screen, it says Keshe Foundation Plasma Technology resolves the African swine fever problem in China. As our American friends say, watch this space next week. You might learn a lot more. And then in that process, we will show a mass conversion, not individual conversion. And this is important for us to learn the next step, to gain confidence. If the pig could do it, man calls himself, in Farsi we say, Ashraf Makhluqat, means the head of creation, whatever God has created. And if a pig can do it, it must be easy for the man to do, unless a man is a pig man. You came here to see the new magic system today, but you find out the system is you. You came to see what gadget comes for you to defraud your nation from the electricity bill and blah, 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 whatever, or find peace for your physicality. Now, if you understand and you can develop this, would you send a man with a cancer into space and let him walk the plank, as I said, and that position, he has everything balanced, he come back without cancer. So the space trip of the Keshe Foundation into space will be a very lucrative job. Go with the cancer in the space, everything goes according to leaving the soul and finding the balance, bring the physicality back, no cancer. And then how many trips would you take? To live 1,000 years? 10,000 years? Or do you get fed up, going to come back and convert and then become man of the space? This is what is reality today. The pig still exists. If you want, I can bring here new pictures and videos. I think we received one about a week ago. He hasn't forgotten his voice, it still goes and the rest of it. But I have a pig. Would your soul be happy to come back in the dimension of physicality? And do we need to make schools? Do we need to make classes? How to find your soul and then how to fly your soul? One of these preliminary works was done with one of the beautiful men of Keshe Foundation. And when I looked at it and I spoke about it in a very passing way, what Alex has done in Nigeria, the swimming pool. Would we need to extend the field of these swimming pools in Nigeria, that when we go in it, we see this detachment of the soul of the man from its physicality? It's possible. It depends how much Alex put things in that wall of that swimming pool or inside the swimming pool. And then can he change the condition of the environment of the pool? In this condition, you have 4 legs, and next day he changes the condition. You have no legs and you can swim like a fish. Do we need to go through this process? So, sorry, this week I don't have no machines for you, and so no teaching about the CH4 and CH3 and every other thing. But you have to understand what I've taught you up to now, that you can go through this transition. Because when you go into the depth of the space, you have to know what you need to tap, that you receive energy, even though you don't go for desert island disk, as they call it in English. That you're left alone on an island, and where would you find the water, the food and the shelter? This time, this island is the span of the universe. And this time is not your physicality, but it's the dimension of the soul which decides to take the shape of the physicality. Any questions?
Hey, thank you, Mr. Keshe, and I'll remind the attendees we have that they can put their hand up in the Zoom and we can address your question. And if there's any questions in the live stream, we did have one that you've already answered, Mr. Keshe. The one question in live stream, Plasma says, I believe Plasma is from the Chinese sector, says, tomorrow we have March. In my opinion, it's time to show devices without engines. We are waiting for these devices for a very long time.
Wait. Why don't you make it yourself?
Well, this
Yeah, all
This
the
is
teachings are
this is
there. No,
exactly what I was going to answer here, man.
excuse me,
But
we made it is ours. We showed you the MAGRAPH system, you made all the crazy accusations, and then when you got the receipt bill, you were too ashamed to come back. Sorry, I received, my system works. As I said very recently, guy put a note on, uh, what do you call it? One of these, where was it? Um, that everything about Keshe Foundation is lie. I bought the MAGRAPH system and it doesn't work. Why don't you send it back? They will refund you. You spend 1 cent on a chewing gum. If it's wet, you take it back. How did you spend 500 and then call it, claim it back? These are all what I call wet talk. So we showed you, it's there. Why do we have to do it? You do it yourself. We are carrying on with our work. How do you think our researchers come to a conclusion to do it? Why do we have to spoon feed you and then come up with any school of thoughts you want to talk about? You've been waiting for? The researchers have been through the same teaching as you have. And everything is there.
well, Freed answered underneath Plasma. Are you listening right now? Way more surprises on the horizon. So it was, yeah. That's thank you for that, Mr. Keshe. As
It
I
is,
say, you had
it's,
already
to be
answered it.
honest,
You had
it's,
already answered it before. This whole teaching answered it. So that's the whole thing about it.
yeah, but the thing is, excuse me, we make patches for you, everything else. You want me to give you a system that to show your soul is or something wrong with me? I always said, everyone takes from this technology according to their strength of their own understanding. If you cannot make a dynamic system, means you haven't understood. We have a beautiful saying for us. We say, in some European countries the same. You sit for exam in just end of a spring for what you did the whole year. If you pass, you go to the next year. If you haven't understood and your mark is so low, you fail. You go and do the course again, or they give you summertime a gap. We call it tajdidi, to turn up and sit for the papers which you haven't done. And if you pass, you can go to the next. Otherwise, you go back to it. It means you haven't understood, so you're going to study again. All the works are there. Go and read it. Everything is there. Our researchers don't have a special hat connected to universal community download, and they do. All the nobody has been more open than us teaching, and there's still something wrong with us. Excuse me, something wrong with you. Because you want, like a chick, open mouth, feed me. It's mother's fault I don't get fed. I've been a very good father. I've fed you and I nourished you. It's you who's got to to open the door and see if you can understand the life outside. The house has been very safe up there. And sorry, you've been waiting. It means you haven't understood. 265 teaching. Each one between 2.5 to 4 hours. That's 1,000 hours of my time. How long in your life sat and listened to your father or the mother? Did you ever spend 1,000 hours trying to listen to them and do what they say? I bet none of you spend more than maybe 100 hours all your life sitting and listening to what the mother said, and you're done. The father has taught for 1,000 hours. And everything is there. You got to be the child who can understand and do the job. Or, as we say in Farsi, Tajdi, to go back. Do the whole year again. 6 years of teaching. Every part is connected to each other. And there is no competition. The only competition with you is you. It's you who have to progress to where you are. In the English northern part of England, there's a methodical swimming classes. It's for racing, people who swim for races. And they have a beautiful system, more or less. I haven't seen anywhere else. If there is, I don't know. A swimmer has to, every month, to swim for a race. And the only one he races is about his own time the month before. Not about other 10 people in the pool. And they all race like crazy. Because they have to improve themselves for themselves. Nobody else. And they produce some of the best swimmers. Because it's you who has to perfect your own knowledge. Nobody else. And it's you who fails for yourself. Nobody else. And you've been promising my teaching. We even showed you the system. I was teaching to our scientists in Tehran a couple of days ago. And one of the gorgeous scientists there came up with a very beautiful way that we have read your patterns, blah, 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 blah. We have this. I said to him, I'm a magician. You read my pattern, but see what fits you. According to your understanding, you can do. The scientists in Sharif Tehran University connected are reading these patterns inside out. They have done all of it, but they still can't fling it through. Because they missed the point. Chinese scientists are doing it here because we know they told us, can you give us the fuel combination, please? I said, as the Iranian nuclear physicist, you can now talk to me because you're a national scientist, but you come to me, get the fuel, so this is Iranian technology. When we can talk to each other, you can have it. When there is no secrecy. How come you are secure? You cannot talk to foreigners, but you come to foreigners to get the intelligence? You analyze it. You should be flying. Because they've seen the systems I've done in south of China in the last summer. And even my team there, they were looking for something else, and I was collecting data, confirmation of different aspects of the technology. Everything is there. Go back. It's not my job. I've done my job. It is my job to teach you, but you've been a bad student. You touched it back to the beginning. I enjoyed teaching or sharing knowledge or teaching with the Iranian scientists past day, because Iran will lead the space technology, the spaceship program, and will support other nations the same as Chinese, and the rest to follow, and be with us not to follow. But the Iranian scientists have to understand the technology, not to copy. It's not just you. I've told them the same thing. I show you, you can fly tonight, but you have to understand where you missed. This is important for all of us. Then we cannot blame the Americans didn't share the technology. The Africans can blame the Russians, and everybody else blames everybody else, but everybody wants to share it to everybody else according to what is to their benefit financially. It's a ridiculous condition today. All of us know this president, whatever, is fighting to get one nation disarmed and no nuclear. And the same nation is trying to sell nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia. If it's not good for everybody, why do you want to sell it to somebody else? You're going to have the same problem in 12 months' time. Saudi Arabia has no intelligence. Their scientists are as good as the camels thinking which side is the end. We know, I've lived without them, but they are intelligent, beautiful, intelligent people. What are they going to do? They're going to bring nuclear scientists from other nations with the high wages, 10 million, 20 million, you have enough oil. Why do you need nuclear? To become another nuclear, and then they have to go and negotiate with them like they do with Kim. If we understand that the time of nuclear is finished, then we don't need to negotiate, because I can go from Tehran to Washington in 5 minutes. The American guy wants to see how beautiful Isfahan is here. It'll be in 5 minutes, and he goes home for dinner. All the knowledge is there. No man has ever opened his patents the way I have. You have to read it. And no one has taught everything in detail. Never come back to me and say, it's your problem. You know something, you're a naughty boy. Back to your bedroom, read the book. You can come out and have a fruit when you understand what was in the book. There is no exam. The only exam is your own understanding. Never ever come to me and says, you promise. I promise we are doing it. Oh, I read you something beautiful coming from the research centers. This is 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and I read you the text. It says something interesting. We gave out a field unit plus a patch with a special powder without telling to people who wanted to balance themselves. One with breast cancer, one with prostate cancer. Both received them as a wellness unit for balancing. These units are certified under European certification. So we are talking about the use of the Keshe Foundation technology, which is certified under health machinery. Both received them as a wellness unit for balancing. Nothing was promised. After 2-3 weeks, both went to hospital for inspection. At both, the growth stopped. The lady with the breast cancer did not have pain after 1 week. Both move on. They sleep in the unit and apply patches. They balance themselves. My technology is 100% correct. It's the job of these 2 people to come back and tell us what happened. The Keshe Foundation team works away as me. Give the technology free to those who want to do. You haven't understood, not me. Back to school and back to your room. When you understood, please come out, I'll feed you with more knowledge. Next question, please. And the thing is, this is a dynamic system.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. We can go to perhaps Saeed, I think is the name. I'll allow you to talk. You have a question in the Q&A, but you have your hand up as well. So we'll allow you to speak. The question regards, he's from Tehran, actually, in Iran. And his question, he has 2 questions about how could a human survive in sudden acceleration of a spaceship, which is extremely in very high speed, was the first question. And I think he's ready to speak here. Maybe he can say his question better. Go ahead, see.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Keshe.
Morning. Salam alaikum.
Salam. I have one question, and it's about the spaceship. I've seen that some spaceship where they are in a steady state and are not moving, and suddenly they move with a very high speed. And I was just wondering, how could a human actually survive with such acceleration?
The understanding is you look at a matter condition like an aircraft, where in spaceship technology you're dealing with a plasma fields. Inside these aircraft, inside these crafts, is not the oxygen and air as you see it. It's a condition of creation of plasmatic, which means you are in a dimension of no physicality, but in a physical condition as an energy pack. So acceleration doesn't count, because you are part of the system, within the system. The first time I tested this in Tehran, Sharif Tehran University, I wanted to prove it is correct. That it can do, it does happen. And you are thinking on a matter state. In spaceship, you work on a plasmatic state. And you don't get the acceleration the way you see it in the matter state.
I see. And my next question is about quantum particles. Is this a true scientific achievement, or is it just like a goose chase?
It makes a lot of money. And in a way, what is quantum?
That
minute particle, minute space. We call it a new language for it. That's all it is. We consider a very minute space and we make a lot of assumptions on it. And in a real world, anything which exists has a dynamic field, and everything outside affected inside as much as what is inside affects outside. If you ignore all the parameters just to suit, yes, we need these data, you know, we say we have a child and we want this child to, let's say, have a perfect digestion system. We say it's got no legs, no arms, it can't feed itself. We assume that it doesn't need anything else except we give it to it. We control, we take everything off, and we assume only thing we put in is what comes out. Because we don't want to face the reality, we are not there. He puts something in his mouth, he drinks, he breathes. Even the assumption that there's a lot of wrong things in it, we breathe, but when we breathe, we don't breathe the same air all the time. We take different energies every breath. So we can feed ourselves with that. That I taught about this 2 years ago in the teachings with the Indian guru who came to see us in north of Italy. So quantum physics for specific conditions under specific assumptions to achieve a specific outcome is there. You build a car to go racing, you decide what fuel, what things on it, you don't want other fuel, you assume there is no air, you assume a lot of things. Quantum physics at the moment is in that stage. And it's very much theoretical as far as we can see, but it's part of the growth of the technology, knowledge of the man. We cannot deny it, but we have to understand what quantum means. And nowadays, a lot of people, nobody else wants to understand, this is quantum. And we need a man who says we don't need anything else is an ignorant man. But man, you have to understand we need it, but it has to be the correct way. This is what I brought in about the holographic. It will give us a lot of things if we do it the right way, but we can't create a new, these are followers of what I call, now they have nothing else to do, they have to find a way, but the system will be used later on the way we see it. That they say there is something called the dark matter, it glues it together. And they make an equation for it, says mathematically is correct, so it must be reality. Yeah, mathematically is correct because you made something which doesn't exist in it. My pot is full, but I don't say I put half of it just water to show it's full. It's like when you buy meat in Belgium. Any of you lived in Belgium, you have a fantastic time to live. The life of cheating is right across the work of these people. You go to a butcher, you buy a kilo of meat. When you come home, when you cook it, you get a pot of soup and some meat. Actually, a kilo is about 600 grams. 400 grams is the water injected into it. Now, we have to understand the correct conduct. A butcher says, I'm selling you a kilo, you pay me 400 for the water I injected in, and 600 is for the meat. You buy meat in China, you pay a kilo, you get a kilo. You don't get the swimming pool in your pot when you're frying. So, who tells the truth? We have to be aware. Quantum knowledge, physics, scientists, we need each other with this. Even what I teach, if there were other scientists or our parents or forefathers who added to it, would not make sense. How would you know what an atom is when I speak about an atom and then connect it to plasma? But some of it is needed. Some of it is, some people take it too far to change it. With my teaching, I don't take, I teach you for you to decide what fits you. Quantum physics in a specific, for a specific cases, which everything assumed doesn't exist. Who created the quantum physics? Can somebody tell me? Who's the father of the quantum physics? Do we know anybody of our scientists?
Our information is on it here. Just give me a minute. We'll have our friend Wikipedia and see if we can come to some sort of the early excuse me, the early quantum theory was let me see, it goes back to Max Planck's solution in 1900 to the black body radiation problem, and from correspondence between energy and frequency in Albert Einstein's 1905 paper, which explained the photoelectric effect. Early quantum theory was profoundly reconceived in the mid-1920s by Erwin Schrödinger and Werner Heisenberg and Max Born and others. The modern theory is formulated in various specially developed mathematical formulations. And one of them, a mathematical function, the wave function, provides information about the probability amplitude of position, momentum, and other physical properties of a particle. We could look at the Wikipedia page on that.
I'm here. Can you hear me? I'm back.
Yes.
You see, the soul of Max didn't like me, so he says, stop there. It wasn't me, it was the other guy. So Einstein needed to come up with some fallacies to be able, in a way, later on, a lot of work with the speed of light and E is equals mc squared to be proven. And if you read his work, a lot of his work is a lot of, I don't agree, I ignore this, I assume. There's, in a quantum physics, there's a lot of assumptions in many in the background that we don't see. And Maxwell, trying to do other things to prove part of the other piece, has done. Einstein brought a lot of lies into the world of physics. A lot of lies. And we have accepted it. But part of his lies can be used, or assumptions. He wanted to prove his equation of E equal mc squared is correct. And we all have fallen for it. It's the most nonsense equation ever existed. Because everything else is ignored. So, when you speak about quantum physics, read it. I never accepted that, I never bothered to, because when you understand the work of Einstein, you understand you're more or less leading on a path of fallacy, but some of the people are there, we carry on, we have to do, because the Jewish lobby is very strong. And the other hand, unfortunately, as I said, one of the most brilliant physicists, scientists in the world is an Iranian young chap, and he's given the seat of Einstein in the university where he was. And it's unfortunate, our Iranian brilliant scientist has taken such a path, but we learn from it. We learn a lot from it. We will learn from it, but it needs dimensions. As I said last time, the seat of Einstein is given to this brilliant Iranian physicist. And uh, uh, we have to see if they don't make a sign. In the world of physics, in the world of plasma physics, you cannot make any assumption. You make assumption in the space, I assume there is no field there, so you walk in, voila, goodbye, a new dimension. You have to look at the totality. Last week we had one of our friends who was trying to say the creation of atom. I listened to him before, I don't peer review, but he was making a lot of assumptions, or he couldn't see the other part of it. I don't refuse, I don't say you're wrong, is look at the totality of it. If we want to specifically study if there is a specific such a condition and make it so small that nobody can think, then I can do whatever I like. I said once to my professor, Einstein has been a guy who has worked in a dark room with a bunch of audience that nobody can see whatever he does, and he says what he's done. He says, oh, my hand is on my head. We don't know if his hand is on it. It could be sitting on the floor. And we all accept because he said, this is a dark room, we don't see. And quantum physics is that dark room. We can't get in it. Or then we assume whatever is being said. But they make a lot of assumptions, they make a lot of work with it. But some of the quantum studies are beautiful because we learn from it. Some of the assumptions made, some of the positions made. But you have to take quantum physics according to what conditions was supposed to be. And if all the realities have been taken into consideration. Not everything is right, not everything is wrong, but we have to understand what quantum means. In part of the world, they have taken the Keshe, somebody's microphone is open. They have taken the Keshe Foundation plasma technology and they have changed it to quantum. And the Chinese officials have found out this. That is not for it to be shown as a plasma. Now that we are working with the governments, they say, oh, we know this, but this is now your technology, change the name. I've had this a few times with the officials and the scientists here. Now we know where it comes from. Not to be against plasma technology. They do good things, they don't do bad things with it, but it has to be done, then the scientists understand where it comes and how it works. Any other question?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kesh. We had a question earlier that Aline had put in the Q&A. Says, I'm Aline of RO, I think that's Romania. Please ask this question for Mr. Kesh. Talking about deuterium's got the question in twice. I'm trying to put it together exactly what he's.
Oh, that question. I've seen it in that question.
Okay.
I don't understand what it means.
Well, maybe we can allow him to talk and see if he can explain, if he can open his microphone and ask the question. And maybe he's got a different language that would be easier to ask, or some way that we can clarify exactly what the question is.
If you can't speak English, do we have the head of the Keshe Foundation in the background? She can translate. Do you see Ella anywhere?
Don't see Ella there right now. No.
She's asleep.
See. There might be someone else that could translate if necessary.
We have the Romanian speaking member of the Universal Council. Is he around? Yes, he's there. Okay, if you cannot speak, Maris is there. Okay, go ahead. Okay,
well, Maris, do you want to ask Aline if he wants to talk?
Or can he speak English himself?
Yes, that might be. I can try to interpret what the question is.
Open the microphone, let's listen.
Okay. Trying to unmute, but it's not unmuting, so maybe there's a problem with, he might have a problem with the microphone, it's possible. Sometimes if you either go into the preferences for Zoom or restart your Zoom, then it will restart your audio connection and you can allow the microphone. The question regards, he starts off, deuterium, or everything we see that's black in the sky, is the neutron, which is in the middle of the universe, is the proton, is at the edge of the universe, is the electron.
This is what I don't understand. Doesn't make sense.
He's saying, I think, that in the center of the galaxy is deuterium. So deuterium is everything we see black in the sky. The neutron is what is in the middle of the universe. The protons at the the protons in the middle of the universe. So the neutron would be in the middle.
Somehow doesn't make sense. I read it twice.
Yes, I know. Okay.
I don't understand. It didn't make sense.
The edge of the universe would be the electron. That's kind of the middle is the proton. And then everything we see in the sky is the neutron. The deuterium would be at the center of the galaxy. Is what he's asking. He's asking if the deuterium would be at the
by the way, it's okay. I don't understand it.
Yeah, okay. We definitely need some clarification.
I think we leave it because he's got to explain.
Okay, and maybe he could rewrite it in the chat or in the Q&A. We have another question from Renee, if you like. It says, I built a MagRav system for all...
Hello, I'm back again. I got kicked out. Can you repeat that for the viewers?
Oh, okay, I was going to say that there's another question from Renee in the Q&A. Perhaps you've seen it there. He says, I built a MagRav system for all 3 phases of the grid and arranged 6 MagRav systems as a hexagon shape. As one effect, I got a very big field. And now I want to make sure that the field is rotating counterclockwise. Can you give me a hint how I can achieve this, please? I think because of the phase shift between phases already will give me that rotation, but I'm not sure. Thank you very much. Regards from Austria.
The- there are different ways to do it, and this has to come when you're building the maggrav unit. The way your you GANs coat it, you have to get the ratio that you go from the stronger to the weaker. So let's say you start with um, the strongest on, let's say, at 12 o'clock. Then your mixture, gas mixture of the next one at 9 o'clock has to be, let's say, 4 to 1 or 4 to 2. And then the one at the bottom at 6 o'clock should be gas coating 1. Then you can create a dynamic system. Because at the same time they try to feed each other, you dictate the condition of the rotation. It's very easy to do. But you have to do it on the time you're building it. Or how you space your gaps. You have created, you can create enforced rotation too. The spacing of, we know this from our maggraph system. Some of the maggraph systems you took from the Keshe Foundation, they say it doesn't work in one country, but we take it back and it works in the country. It's just to do the magnetic field pressure which the current in that country creates. Originally we didn't understand, so it comes here, it doesn't work. But if we send the unit at a 50 hertz frequency to another country, 55 or 60, it works in the other one, but because the compression of the magnetic field will create magnetic blockage, or it overflies over the system into the grid. John did some of these experiments very early on, a couple of years ago in Arizona. And you can actually, by coating, dictate the direction of the flow. If you have run dynamic systems, you can see it. If you have a picture of the Iranian nuclear space reactor, which is somewhere in the center, it's one of the pictures. We have a window there, with a plastic window, and through the window we could see which direction the core rotates. And if we change some fields, we could see the center core goes anti-clockwise. Even if we could bring the next core, the what's called the electrode or the twin system near to it, by moving it, I could see the rotation of the center core changes. Nothing, we don't change anything. We just have a second core. We've done this before. Let me share. In the systems in Tehran, if you look at it, the system is like this. The system is like this. It has a housing, and then you have a rim, and then you have a dome. And inside this dome, we have a second reactor. And this is saturated with nuclear material. And here we have a window. We could watch the operation of this inner core. You see it's got double feeding, where this one feeds into the center core direct, and this one changes the gases in the outer core. We have a secondary core, again twin system, preloaded and rotating on the same basis. We could bring this close and move it back. And then we could see the change of direction. in this one. No changes anyway, just by movement of the system outside. This is why we have taught this many times. This is why we see Venus going anti-clockwise. The reason the Venus is going clockwise is because its proximity to the sun. When it passes this zone, it might start going anti-clockwise. Venus, most probably when it was in the position of the Earth, was going anti-clockwise. Magnetic field pressure changes the direction of the rotation. That's why we have positrons. It's just to do with the energy of the center in respect to the electron. If we assume all the protons are the same, and all, no, they are not. If this is called a proton, this have a bandwidth of the energy from 1 to 12, let's say. This proton with a bandwidth of electron of 1 to 12 gives this direction. What about the next electron, which is sitting on the 6 here, but this one is still 12? So it forces to change position. We've done this many times. In the Iranian space reactor, this was many because we wanted to see landing and takeoff. If you change by other side. In the present system, what we call the star formation, you dictate that with the top core in a very specific way, or you use the flow ratio between the bottom cores. This we know over 12 or 15 years. Because the original reactor we built in Belgium, which was a stainless steel, it was very earlier on. This was sitting on a motor, and this rotates how I used to put gas in it, and it has a steel pin. And sometimes I just changed the gas. It was early times of testing. I could inject, create condition of a nuclear, what do you call it, plasma, without any nuclear material. And by changing certain parameters, I could rotate it. And sometimes the pressure of change was so much that you've seen this, I think people knowledge 16, the pin of this type up top has been bent because the field forces are so strong that the stainless steel, I think it's about half a centimeter diameter, something like that, is bent. Field forces are very strong. So I wanted, when I did this and I could see these changes, I couldn't understand at that time, but now we understand more and more that inside there's a layer of magnetic fields. This is the cores now you have, and non-dimensional. So part of this was to create a second core in parallel, which we did in Tehran, and confirm the technology. I'm an engineer, I make things, and I prove it that nothing is theoretical.
Mr. Kesh, we have a picture of the original reactor that you were referring to there. Would you like to have a look at that?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me share that.
This is made nearly 11 years ago in Tehran Sharif University, and it's a beautiful machine because it's very versatile. You see, that's a bottom. I try to show you. This is the gas tank. Iran space program is so advanced. Iranian scientists are gorgeous to work with. This is our gas tank. Inside this, there is a second reactor core. This is static. This one is dynamic. And this is embedded with huge amount of radioactive material. And we don't use it now. And if you see here, you have two springs. We had a motor here that rotates this, and this gets heated up. So we put a coil system around it. This ends up in a cooling system that we keep in a vacuum, because we burned the first reactor because of these. You see, I'm going to clean this up because it's easier. Then you can see it's not too much. Okay, I cannot drop, but there we are, it's going off. Okay, this we need to take off. So what you have is here you have a dynamic system, and this is the window. We could see the operation. Here you see on the side, we could change the polarity of the plasma in the outer ring. Here we can control the electric power to the motor. And this is the feed to the center core. It's a special core here, dynamic. It can go 3000 RPM, sold in Germany. Many Keshe Foundation people in Belgium who were made the reactors use this. I told them where to buy. And this one feeds the outside core. So we could monitor the whole operation from here. And there is another core, the white one. If you go into the 129 setup, you see the second Iranian reactor. Then when we used to bring it in, we could see the rotation of these changes. I remember our friend from the Office of the President, they used to laugh sometimes when I used to tell them, so what do we do with it? Because it was confirmation of positron magnetic field changes the direction. And as you can see, this is the gas into the center core, and this is a gas to the outer core. We connected to, what do you call it? The minute milligram of gases. And then field pressure dictates the rotation. And it was obvious now how positron, there was this immediate reaction. Originally, we could see the changes, and sometimes this thing totally stops, and I thought the motor is burned. To open these bolts, you see here, I think it's about 16 of them, right? It used to take half a day to do one setting. We had to open these bolts, and you see here there's a lot of silicon tape, silicon glue, and then tightening up, sitting out to go for the next one. We couldn't do more than one test a day sometimes, if you wanted to change, because let me do something here. You see it here, it's clear now. You see the position of radioactive sources were set for different testing. So when we finished with one, we had to change the combination to see what's the effect. Now I want to take up, I want to put field pressure here. We could change it that way. Even with the inner dome, we could change the radioactive material inside or outside to change, and then take half of it off and see what it does. A lot of tests done too, we achieved. On the 28th of Shaban at 5:30 in the afternoon, we achieved the first motion lift in Tehran. And there is no air displacement. It's totally gravitational magnetic field positioning. And it is part of the original structure. And then with Arman in Italy, he went into the small reactors and using the ganses, and we saw the 129. The original base, because of the magnetic field pressures, just blew out. It burnt out. Actually, one of the reasons it blew out, burnt out, I sat on it, trying to fly with it. I couldn't take the weight. And it was part of it. I wanted to hold it to the ground. And for me to build a reactor like this in Belgium or in England, from the point of design to the test, used to be about 12 months, 18 months. When I blew out the base of the first one, I called the office and I said, I need a new reactor. I remember my, what do you call it, people, they came and says, can you give us a design? What do you want this time? So I gave this design to them. I remember it was a Tuesday morning, and next Tuesday morning, they delivered this to me. 7 days. Cut everything. And then we wanted to test effect of magnetic field on the metals. And I wanted a metal ring here, a special metal ring. His Excellency President Ahmed ordered the metal was imported from Japan overnight. The ring is still with us. Because we wanted to know how would be the effect of the matter on non-magnetic or magnetic material, but stainless steel which cannot get magnetic. What you see here, the table underneath where this sits on it, this table is made by the Iranian scientists. It's a totally non-magnetic stainless steel. I have 20 of them. All the labs I work at is no magnetic field interference. It's made especially in Tehran. Then we wanted to see the effect of the pressure in the gas tank, because those days we filled this one with a combination of gases, helium, argon, to see what effects it gives us. How was the field radiation? And this is the one you've seen in the test in, what do you call it, in Belgium. We start with 9.1 kilogram, and with less than a few grams of gas, milligrams of gas, we come to 6.1. We lose 3 kilograms with less than a few milligrams, and no air displacement. This is the second. The first one, you see this is got the plastic bottom. We tried to repair it, it was impossible. And then with this, I asked, I want this to be made. I have a beautiful memories from building that steel and part of this system. It was a Maha of Ramadan, which is the fasting time, and I don't fast. So I used to work, they used to take me to a factory to build part of this, and poor chaps, they're fasting, but they brought me, the wife of the owner of the factory brings me food that I eat, and they used to lock me in the room. You know, this guy, he doesn't fast. I'm not that kind of man. And then they sat with me, built this one step by step. The design of this is from Belgium. We couldn't break through. He came up with the suggestion how to create a double system to fit through one pipe. This is a beautiful flight. It's the first. It's actually the second, because the first one, when he flew, I jumped on it. I wanted to fly with it. And they told me fly through the ceiling. It's no problem. And then I built the second one, which is again double core. But that is a free full circle. You've seen it. We tested it. I never opened my reactor system to public. And all came because of one of the knowledge seekers. When he came to the Sensano, he brought a beautiful stainless system, but it wouldn't work. He tried everything. And he said, it doesn't work. I will stop. I said, I'll give you one of mine. And Arman can tell you, I took them into my lab next door. And once they got hold of one reactor, the rest of the magic box opened up. And all my reactors have become part of the teaching process. So up to that time, till Marco asked for it that it can't work, everything was kept away. This reactor was shown to the Boeing International. They were so scared to see it on the pavement, they kept it in Brussels. It was Iranian technology, cannot come in. It was the problem as we have today. And I carried it in a backpack. Actually, this fits into, I used to go everywhere. Nobody could suspect this was a backpack. It's a space reactor in it. It had its own backpack. We used to put it on the trolley backpack. And it weighs very little, a few, 2, 4 or 5 kilograms. And I took it to the office of the Prime Minister of Belgium. They said, you can't bring it in. Took it in for them to see it. I was proud that Iran has achieved this. And The system now, we are more advanced. The Chinese system is much more advanced. You create a condition and you see the pressures inside the system and you change the nuclear materials. This carries hundreds of nuclear sources in it, not just 1 or 2 or 10 or 20. We could control every inch and see the effect of it. This side is a tank. Below here is a fuel tank with a motor in it. All the action is in this part and you can control the dome. I'm proud to be Iranian because we share it freely. We don't hide it in patterns and crooked jobs. This is the way knowledge should be shared. I wondered how many of you bring your soul back and share with us what the soul experience was when you go into the depth of the space. How much you bring for us to learn. The whole understanding of this, if you look at it, this is very much is the physicality of the man. If you look at it in the other way, this is the physical body, the brain of the man. That's the skull. Then inside it, you have the physical structure of the body. And inside it, there is a soul. Because as Rick, you done the first experiments we saw when you did the dynamic system, if you remember, you see a hollow space in the middle of the core. It's the same here, it's the soul of it. And because you can observe it, with this system, we could go to -13. Better than the space vacuum. And then we used to feel what we wanted to feel in it. But I had a problem, inherent problem. I was today with a scientist for another job, and I said to him, we can't use plastic. We have to use something else, because when you create a condition of the plastic, and then you condition to vacuum, and then to radiation or plasma field, the molecular structure of the plastic opens up. Your purity goes out of window. This is why we could achieve 129 with the reactors which Armo made out of copper. And some of our people have a problem with the new plastic copper cores, because you don't see it, but because you're not aware of it, the plasma creates a specific condition that affects the molecular structure of the plastic. You can start with the -13 and leave it and come back in the morning is -8, -9. And you think something else. So I built a system that I copper coated this totally. Arman can tell us if he's there. It's totally black inside, copper nano coated. I leave it at night 13. I come back in the morning, it's still 13. Because I took the deterioration of the plastic from it, so we knew the process. Some of the problems with the balls which Chanlin sells from China, and many of you using it, is this, because the plasma cannot keep the inherited properties of the magnetic field. It interferes with it, and if you look at it, nowadays most of you are scientists better than me, it has a CH combination on it. Or sometimes it has a COH combination on it. Depends on the polymer. And it's a double bond or a single bond, doesn't matter. When you put a CO2 gas in it, you can see where it starts shaking, doesn't it? Or if you put a CH3 on it, God help you. You don't see the results, which Alma will see in the copper cores. You have to understand the science behind it, what you're dealing with. In the what we call the clinical trials, we understood very quickly how we could play with CO2 and CH3 and the reason behind it. And now most of you know CH3, I'll call it CH14 or CH12. The same thing can feed the soul of the man or the physicality of the man. That's the energy. When I do tests, I just don't do to achieve something. I do to see what it gives me. When you target to achieve something, you learn nothing, because when it doesn't get there, there is something wrong. But in the process, if you're open, you consider every step and you learn from it. Those who look for results never become researchers. Those who target the results but learn the path, what's happening in that process, are the people who can add to knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. It's very interesting. We were discussing some of the original reactors and the patent in the plasma group recently. We have a somewhat related question when you brought up the CH3 and energy and so on, from Celine, who was asking about a so-called ketone diet, which seems to be popular with people worldwide, which transforms...
Can you repeat? Can you repeat? Can you repeat, please? Stop.
She's talking about recently the so-called ketone diet, Ketone, ketone diet, seems to be popular with people worldwide. It's a eating habit of going to low carbon from traditional eating habit with carbohydrate dependent to a low carbon and high fat diet. And people see visible effect on a slimmer body shape or improved health condition. But among them, unfortunately, there comes a few death cases. Not many, but it happens. Also, we are not sure if the death is directly related to such diet. So my question is, how does the ketone diet would impact a human body who adopts such a diet? How would it affect his amino acid protein function, even the carbon connection, which is the recent teaching has been talking about?
I know nothing about it. I can't make up.
Right, we would have to research it and do some looking into it, I think, in order to answer such a question.
You can't make it come, because it's like, as I said to you, we have to, first of all, we are not here to comment or peer review, but in what we understand, but we have to see to our totality of it and making comment on what is there. There are a lot of researchers with the materials which, from the matter point of view, we don't see, but when you look at it from the plasma point of view, they have a beautiful, or you can do a lot of things with it. A lot of people have an objection to chemotherapy. Now that from the plasma technology we have opened up and we can control most of the damages of chemo through plasma technology, so let the chemo does its job and we do the side effects. but it has to be done in a specific way. Well, what does this food do? We had another one food like this a few years ago and caused mayhem. A lot of people did it. It was called Cambridge diet.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember that one? That created a lot of deaths.
This one, I can show you the Wikipedia if you want to get into to know a little bit about it. It's used, they say it's used as a dietary therapy for epilepsy, in particular in children, and forces the body to burn fats rather than carbohydrates, is the idea. We could look into it if you like, or it's a can of worms that maybe you...
I'm not making a comment, but you don't need to go any further. I don't make any comment on this.
Very good, thank you.
I can see where the problem is. You just said it. You have to understand what epilepsy is. In the medical teachings, I've explained the epilepsy. Epilepsy, actually, I can talk about it. Why not? Because this is a case we have in saving a girl with numerous epilepsy attacks with 20 tablets a day. And in less than 3 months, no tablets, no epileptic attack, and it's a criminal offense in Belgium. And no medicine, understanding the plasma technology. Of course, what do you expect? Let me tell you something why. This is biology we teach. We leave the stupid people to live their own lives. You have to understand what the epilepsy is. In the brain of the man, this is your neck and this is your nose. I'm not a very good drawer. You have your brain and then you have a spinal cord. At a point, somewhere, it's a specific point, there is a switch. This switch, how it works, can create coma, can create epilepsy, can create drowsiness, can put you to sleep. Actually, when it works in a different way, it's a point where your physicality switches for your soul to operate. If you understand what I'm talking about. That it cuts off. It's like, you know, you run 2 engines. When this point works, it disconnects from the soul and then the physicality goes to sleep. You know this point very well because if you've been a driver, for example, or you push yourself to do something and you fall asleep and you shake up, you wake up, is this switch which goes to work. It's the size of a tip of a needle. So, but it has a specific function. Let's say it has 2 megabytes of information can go through at a time. It's got the size of a pipe. You know, you can put so much water through 2-inch pipe or 4-inch pipe. Let's say this can carry so much information to the rest of the body because it goes through the spinal cord. Some of your information goes through the soul with the radiation that goes instantaneous. But when a neurosystem is used, your nerve system, which is specifically for muscle tissue, this is what the nerves are, for muscle tissue. Because it's copper, it has to be transferred to it, and the zinc and the copper match perfect. So what happens is that when the brain is normal condition, produces 5 megawatts of information. So this can carry through. But if you get the brain busy, the brain now produces 3 megabytes of information. And most of this information is a physical information. like that to move or create a condition, a repetitive condition. So what happens? Let's say you go in a switch. Now you create 12 megabytes of information. Some of the people with epilepsy create that condition themselves, and I know how to catch it. So what happens? I'm going to clean this up, and then it's too much mess here. We go back. This is the, sorry, clean up, go back to the same colors. This is the skull, and this is the face of the man, whatever. And this is your nervous system. And this is the brain, and produces this. This point can only allow 2 megabytes of information per shot. Because a lot of people have to remember, again, is to remember that wherever there is a gravity, there is magnetic field. This is a lower level current, which can to go to, or is a higher level current that it can come from. So higher electric current is produced from here, that in trying to get to the lower inner organ, it just travels very fast. It's a plasmatic flow. But on the reverse, it pulls information back up. That's how we have reflexes. So this is got 1 megabyte of going and 1 megabyte of coming back. So the 2 megabytes used. Now you put the body in a 12 megabyte cycle. Can be physical, can be a lot of other things. So now you have traffic jam of 12 trying to go through a 12 more coming up as well, 24, and you have a capacity of 11. So what does the body do? It opens up the switch, allows 2 through, and it closes it till all this are consumed by the body, because it cannot do anything, and it receives everything back what it needs to come back. Now switch on and off. You take a switch light and switch it on and off. You get darkness, you get on. The easiest way is, I can explain it. You get a water hose with a high pressure from the tap, and you close and open this end of it. What's going to happen? This tip of the pipe, because you're close to the tap, it'll go like a snake. It moves till you get rid of the pressure.